Everybody, my name is Adam Creek, and I'm pleased to announce our special guest, Kevin Light, who is a former teammate of mine. I went to the Olympics a couple times with him. We won a number of world championships. We won the Olympics together. We failed tremendously at the Olympics together, and we've had a lot of other memories. We've known each other for a long, long time. So we'll talk about Kevin a little bit longer. And Kevin's a very accomplished photographer, a sports photographer. He's taken a lot of pictures on the water of rowing. So the hope is that he will be able to share some great tips with us today. So I'll throw up the screen. And today we're talking about fitness, fun, and adventure as usual. The agenda, we'll talk after I've welcomed you. I'll do a quick overview of the Oar Board Erg Challenge that we held. We had some good participation. I see Marty and Ed are on the call, two participants from the challenge. Then we'll do a quick round robin introductions of all the different ambassadors that are on the call. And then Kevin will talk about rowing photos. So last question, is there anything else that we want to talk about? Anything else we want to add to the agenda? So if there's nothing else, let's move on to introducing Kevin Light. Kevin Light, photographer. He's going to talk about making better photo composition, taking better selfies using a GoPro, and even more information than that. My name is Adam Creek. I'm an Oar Board Ambassador. I usually am along with Diana Lejeune. She's here somewhere. We'll see if she logs on or not. And we had a great Oar Board challenge last April. There were a number of us who participated. I think it just helped us get on the rowing machines, get on the water. It was fun. We tracked our distance, had a few winners. Ed totally crushed it, 265,153 meters. Congratulations, Ed. Now we've got some toques going out to you guys. We just have to get ourselves a little organized and shove them into packages, send them out. Sue Wilhoff, made some great entries, had a lot of fun with it too. She won the fitness prize, and Michael Carr won the adventure prize with some great stories and pictures of trundling around on the East Coast. And so, well, there's Michael Carr. Yes, hello.
Hey.
Congratulations, yay.
Thank you. It was an honor. I loved it.
Yeah, it's great to see the pictures. It is inspiring.
And the videos.
Yeah, and the videos. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's really good to see. So let's move to introductions, and how about we start with you, Michael, seeing as we've got you talking already. How about you tell us who you are, where you're from, and tell us about your experience taking photos.
Okay, Michael Carr, from the winner of the adventure category and of the Spring 21 Challenge. I live in Winthrop, Massachusetts, and I row out mostly in the open ocean. I've had the Oar Board now for just a year. It's just about a year, and I just love it. But I can only use it once a week. I work there all week long, and I look forward to the weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, and getting out there, in the channel to see the ships, the ship traffic, and so on, and seal sightings from time to time. So I've got my cell phone that I take the pictures and the videos with. What I have to do is I have to put the handles of the oars under the back of my knees, and so that I can have my hands free to take the pics and vids. And so I'm curious to know, hear what the speaker has to say about, like the head-mounted camera. I might look into buying something like that, and I keep my hands in control of the oar board, ultimately, to be safe. But that's about it for now, Adam. And at the end, I want to say something about the book and just coming home today from work. What I spotted out there on the shipping channel. But go ahead, on to the next person. Thank you.
On to the next. Well, thank you, Michael. It's great to see your face and connect. Well, let's move around the group. Marty Hawk. Marty Hawk from California. Tell us where you're from, your experience taking pictures.
Hey, good morning and afternoon, depending on where you are. I live in San Luis Obispo County, California, which is halfway between Los Angeles and San Francisco on the coast. If you know where most people know Santa Barbara, I'm 90 miles north of there. So I get the opportunity to row in the ocean, typically in Morro Bay inside the breakwater, or an area called Avila Beach. That's Port San Luis. That's somewhat protected, but that's open ocean. And then I also belong to a rowing club, and we row at a small 2,500 foot, sort of, I call it low altitude mountain lake called Santa Margarita Lake in northern part of the county. We've had a rowing club there since 2003. So yeah, I haven't been doing a really good job recently, Adam, but I do have a GoPro, and I've got head mounts, chest mounts, sticks. I can do lots of things with it. On our club website, I have suction mounts, so I put that on my hard shell and rode the lake and took some photos and kind of put it together into my first version of editing a movie using iMovie, and it went pretty smooth. It was kind of fun. I also have a drone, and I keep promising Diana I'm going to shoot some drone footage because I've got some beautiful areas to shoot footage around where I live. I still haven't got the nerves. I'm just afraid I'm going to lose it. And it's not an expensive drone, but it does have a full 30 minutes of flying time. So I should be able to get up, take some nice pictures and get it back. I've got to launch it from my boat, and of course, obviously bring it back to my boat and grab it before it sinks into the water. So every day I say I'm going to do that. So maybe I'll promise here by the end of May, I'll finally shoot some drone footage. But I do enjoy doing it. I don't use my cell phone that much just because I've got my GoPro and I've kind of figured out how to make it work. But I do shoot some from my cell phone as well.
Yeah,
so that's my story.
Yeah, that's great, Marty. And I had no idea you were so well equipped. Looking forward to seeing some more of that footage that comes in. Let's move to Ed. Ed, where are you coming from, and what's your experience with taking photos?
Hi, everyone. My name's Ed Mackle. I live in New York. I'm in Queens, just part of New York City. And I've been able to get out on the water quite a bit. Well, it is an island, so there's a lot of bays and harbors and rivers around here. And my family lives down in Maryland on the Eastern Shore, where there's several rivers and inland Chesapeake waterways. I haven't really gotten a lot of great photos out on the water. My problem is this iPhone I have, the new button that they thought was an improvement, I can't really click it when it's in that waterproof case. So any of the photos you've seen me get online and post to our Oar Board group have been me pulling it out of the waterproof case and hoping that I don't drop it as I take a picture. I was out the other day with my daughter. I put a little kayak seat on my Oar board, which was awesome. I was able to get out and paddle around with her, and I was just kind of terrified of dropping my phone in the water. So I have been thinking about getting one of these little waterproof cameras. I'm not a professional, so I don't know if I need a GoPro, but something to that effect. So hoping to see what's recommended and learn some tips today.
Okay, well, thank you, Ed. It's great to have you here. And let's move on to Mr. Schmidt. Where are you coming from, and what's your experience taking photos? You're going to have to unmute. There we go.
Hi, everyone. Ron Schmidt on the floating home on the Columbia River. I love photography. I've got a Nikon D5100 that I just never shoot with anymore because of my other toys. My travel camera is a Canon G5X PowerShot, which I absolutely love because of its size. It does exposure bracketing for me for HDR photography, which I love. It's got a hot shoe on it, so I can have an external flash on it. It's just a great little travel camera. I don't know if you've seen the PowerShots, but they've got some good stuff out there. I do have the GoPro Hero 5, which I love, and that's what I do almost all of my Oar Board shots with. just because you can take the single shots off the video. And I've got all the mounting for that as well. My iPhone 12 Pro Max is a waterproof camera up to, I don't know what depth, but it's not going to go deeper than what the camera is rated for. And I don't use a waterproof cover for it anymore. I've got a band that straps onto it with a lanyard. So it's inside of my suit. I can pull it out, shoot with it. The only problem is my gloves that I'm still wearing this time of year. It's hard to run the screen with a thumb through the glove. So I may have to take the glove off for that. So really my shooting right now for water is pretty much the GoPro, my iPhone 12 Pro Max. When I am traveling, I pull out the Canon PowerShot G5X. And if it's really serious photography, I'll pull out the Nikon D5100. So that's it. Kevin, I'm really excited to hear from you today.
Well, pleasure is all mine, Ron. I'm just happy to be invited from Adam and listening to all of everyone's questions and hopefully providing some input that'll help with your photography.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'm surprised at how well equipped some of you are. I'm much less, I'm feeling deficient in the camera category. Let's never describe. Let's move on to Deb. Deb, where are you coming from and what's your experience with photography?
I'm coming from Reno, Nevada, which is a really well-known rowing city, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I divide my time between Reno and Tahoe. And so I'm excited. I just got my oar board about 2 weeks ago, and our neighborhood has a little lake in it. I grew up in Minnesota, so I think it's a really little lake, but it's really fun to get out there. As far as photography goes, I'm just so brand new with the oar board that I haven't done any photography at all, except a few photos with the cell phone from the shore just to commemorate launching it and getting started. So
That's great, Deb. Appreciate it. From Reno. I was actually married in Reno. But that's a longer story for another time. Tom.
Well, Debbie, I'll be there. Debbie, I'll be there in June in North Shore with my oar board if you want to come rowing.
Oh yeah, so I'll be, depending when you are in June, I'm going to be in Minnesota the beginning of June. I'll be back in Reno by the 11th.
Yeah, I'll be there the 12th to the 18th.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, we'll have to hook up.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's part of the fun of the whole ambassador community is connecting with other rowers from all around. Tom, where are you coming from? And what's your experience?
I'm from Connecticut, southeastern Connecticut, and I'm an amateur. I've done very little photography, so This is all new to me.
Yeah, well, welcome to the call, and hopefully you can learn a thing or two. How about you, Brian? Where are you coming from, and what's your experience?
I'm from north of the border, Vancouver, British Columbia, and new to oar boarding. And it's funny that I tried taking some pictures when I was out last week, and I'm absolutely terrified of dropping the thing to the point where I felt the board moving. So I went to the local sports store, bought one of these plastic pouches that's waterproof, and so I hope to use it tomorrow. Actually, give it a go. Done tons of photography in my life, but cars, hobbies, family, work kind of pushed it all aside. I actually gave away my old film camera equipment to a chum in Los Angeles recently. He was just beside himself. An old contacts with Zeiss lenses. It was like he couldn't believe I was giving it to him, but I hadn't used it in 20 years, and he was into cameras, so it was gone. So anyway, really, I just love this product. Just hearing where everyone's coming from on this call, and I really enjoyed the roots and just this pictures people are posting on that Facebook group. It's kind of nice. I have an antique Porsche, and I'm part of that group with owners of the car, but it gets a little bit monotonous because it's always some new guy that wants to know how to get the trunk latch repaired or something like that. It kind of wears you out. This is very fresh for me, so thank you. So
well, it's great to have you part of the group, Brian. And we'll have Val. Where are you coming from, Val? And what's your experience with photos? You're on mute right now. If you're talking, we can't hear you. Well, while we wait for you, how about we get Jeffrey? Are you able to dial in Jeffrey Lindsay?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I'm in Austin, Texas, and very much an amateur. When I first got the Oar Board about 2 years ago, I experimented with the GoPro setup till I found I like chest-mounted setup the best for the kind of POV shot that's not as cumbersome as having something on the head. But I love hearing stories about rowing, so I'm can't wait to hear this guy's story today.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jeffrey. And we'll finish up with Steve. Where are you coming from, Steve? And what's your experience?
Hi, everyone. My name's Steve Horsel. I'm from Halifax, Nova Scotia. I've been rowing for about 12 years now, probably about 4 of those on the Oar Board. Primarily, I'm just rowing on a lake. Occasionally, I get into Halifax Harbor or a little bit further down the coast in an area called Lunenburg. But most of it is just lake rowing. Done very little photography, to be honest with you. I have a mount with essentially a glorified selfie stick that I kind of picked up at a local yacht shop that I've kind of adapted to go on the Oar Board. Just starting to use that, so hoping today to pick up some tips before I start getting a little bit more serious into taking photos.
That's great. Well, without much further ado, Kevin Light, I'll give you the floor, and let's see if I can pin your picture so that you're the main pinned first screen. There we go.
Okay.
And then you can share your screen and tell us what you need to tell us.
Well, I think what I'll do first, Adam, is just thank you everybody for asking those questions. It's great to hear where you're from and how you use the Oar Board and photography. I have a little bit of a how to take better photos, but I think what I'll do first, Adam, is just address some of the common threads throughout the questions here. And the main one is most people, I would say, are going to be using a phone or a GoPro to take their photos on the Oar Board. Just because of the size and the flexibility of the phone. The main issue is whenever you're on the water taking photos, there is the fear of dropping your phone into the water. So the first thing you have to do is prepare yourself to get over that fear. And I do the same thing either if I'm going out rowing, photography, or kayaking, so prepare yourself so you're not afraid to use the phone or whatever you're using to take the picture. And there's different ways of doing that. We'll address the question about it's difficult to press the button on your phone when you're using you can tell that the mailman is here because the dog. Anyhow, that's unexpected. But so if you're taking a photo on your phone, the majority of people, you can see there's a red button and then you press either photo or video, and that's difficult to do if it's in a case. So, but there is the other option, and I don't know if you can see or you're aware, but the volume button here on the bottom is also can be used as a shutter button. So if you see me, I'm pointing it and then I'll press it and it'll take a picture. So you can be holding it like this inside of a case and using your thumb here, you can press, and we'll take a picture of Adam here. And that should work better than trying to press this screen button, especially if there's some water or whatever on your phone, or if you're wearing gloves, or if you have like a more significant waterproof case. The other thing that will work is if your headphones are connected in, you can control the shutter by clicking the volume button on your headphones. Not likely you're going to be taking that out onto the water, but you could. So that means you could hold the phone out like this with your headphone cord in and click the volume button on your headphones, and then it would take a picture. The main thing here though is to realize that this volume button, and it's either the volume up or the volume down, will take a picture. So that's a good way of getting around. I have my gloves on, it's in a case. That'll allow you to take those photos. The next thing, and I'll share my screen here, because I want to show you a few options. And Adam, can you just let me know that you can see this?
Seeing it.
So here's an option. This is about $12 option that you can put your phone in. And I'm not sure that this is completely waterproof. I don't know if you want to put it under the water, you could. I think this is more of a case that regardless of how you're taking your photo, if you're just using your phone on the water, whether you're taking photos or not, you probably want to put it in a case like this. I do understand that some phones have a waterproof casing built in. I would just be less concerned if you're in a lake, more concerned if you're in salt water. It's how the salt water affects electronics is different than fresh water. If you have again, this case is about $12, so cheap. You can attach you can see this yellow floaty thing, and that's something else you'd want to attach a float. So then you're not afraid to use the phone or whatever camera you have. The other options here, you can see, I wouldn't suggest something like this, but what it does show, and even you can see on this one, you can see the lens on the camera. And if you can get some distance between the lens and the camera and the front of the waterproof case, that's going to help your photos, especially if you're putting it half and half, in the water, out of the water. So I would suggest this kind of case, regardless if you're taking your phone out, just for safety. This kind of case attached to a floaty is going to allow you more comfort in using the phone, even if it's for a phone or an emergency. That's the other thing. If you're out on the water, your phone is a safety. Either you're checking the weather, current conditions, or you're phoning somebody, or I've got stuck here, or I've had to beach in a different area than I was supposed to. You can call for help. So you want to make sure your phone is there for a safety measure first, and then photos second. Here are some options for waterproof case. These are the ones that I kind of like the best. This is called Hit Case, and it's from a company in Vancouver. So Brian, you're going to be close to where this is manufactured. The thing I like about this one is you can attach, and you can see here on the outside of the case, you can attach different lenses. So whether or not it's, I think there's 3 options, a zoom one, wide angle one, and a macro. And a macro just means for close up. So if you're going to do a close up of a underwater seaweed or something like that. And that was relatively affordable, especially for those of you in the US. It's in Canadian dollars. So that's the first thing I would suggest, is be comfortable with taking your phone out and using it. And again, that's called Hit Case, HITCASE, but there's lots of them out there. I would just look for one that has either big enough plastic that it separates, and I'll just unshare the screen here. Separates, you can see the little lens here. So if you can get some air between that and the front of where the lens is, that's gonna help. A bigger example of that is if you're going to take an SLR, this is what I would have to carry with me. And I have done on the paddleboard, but you can see here, and I'll just undo this. You can see how the camera fits in this portion, and this is the dome, called the dome port, and it fits here. So there's a lot of distance, probably about 2.5, 3 inches between the front of the camera lens and the front of the dome port. So that just allows for a little bit, little more options when you're either like half and half in the water or under the water. The other thing I can suggest that you bring with you on your oar board, and this depends also on the time of year, is these, you can have a few options, and I have a few. This is like a deck bag. So you can, and it attaches, there's some Velcro straps. And I use this quite a bit. And I found out that it's not completely waterproof, but pretty close. So this is a nice thing to have because you can either put some extra clothes in here, your wallet if you want, some money. It's got an external pouch. This one is called Seal Line, and it's pretty good, but I accidentally flipped on my paddleboard and some water got in and ruined one of my cameras. So you can see it's just a regular zipper, but if you're, it's better than nothing. The other option I use if I'm going to be out, this is a much more robust, this is a Mustang Norm Hahn Expeditions bag, and it has a really significant zipper, and you can see I got some gloves in here. But this, if I'm even going to the beach, it's got a little pouch. So if I'm going to the beach and I know I'm going to be around water, I'll put my, this is a SLR camera that I'd use. I'll put this inside. But then that means that I'm just going to be really careful when I take it out. I'll take it out, take a few pictures, put it back in. Probably a little more careful in salt water than fresh water, but in case there's water splashing on and if that happens. So that'd be my first suggestion, equipping yourself with equipment that makes yourself a little more, hey, stop. So the other option, mainly for video, you can take screenshots from this. And I forget who it was taking screenshots with their GoPro. That'll work fine. This you could hold out if you're rowing, or you can mount it. And we'll just talk a little bit about mounts on the board now. So I'll share the screen again, and I'll just show you guys a few examples of mounts for the oar board. So, oops. So Adam, can you see this now, Adam?
Yep.
Okay, so here's a mount that's for sale on the Oar Board website. And this is going to be the direct in front angle. And you can see there's a GoPro on there. This is fine. It looks like that. And there's all sorts of different ones on the GoPro website as well. There's suction cup ones and chest mount ones, which I've used. Now you can see this is your picture, and we can see if we can zoom into this at all. But you can see that there's a mount on here. So Adam, I'm going to try and zoom in here. Is that zoomed in, Adam?
Yep.
Okay, so you can see that this is kind of there's a GoPro on there, but the mount is coming off to the side and higher up. So I prefer that angle because it provides, and you can sort of see this here as well. Just zoom in here a little bit to this guy. Not quite so much, but I kind of prefer this side angle to the one that's straight on because it shows a little bit more of the scene. And when it's straight on, right on the stern, when your body's moving back and forth, your body can cover up a lot of where you are. even better if you can get a little bit further away, and you can see the bottom here. If you can get a little bit further away, you can see how the oar board functions, and you can see a little bit more of the environment. And then even better, in my opinion, if you can get it up a little higher, then you can see more of your legs, how it's working, combined with the environment. And that would be more for a GoPro setup, and you could take a still shot from that. Now we'll talk a little bit about, we'll unshare the screen. So there's another question about, I think it was from Michael from Massachusetts, about when he'd row out there and he'd be a little bit afraid, or he'd have to hold both oars under and then take pictures with his iPhone. So what I would do, Michael, is hold, and what we did in rowing a lot, if you're sculling, you can hold both oars with one hand, kind of like this, and imagine both oars are coming in. And if you're right-handed or left-handed, so I'm right-handed, so I'd hold both oars with my left hand and then take my iPhone, and you can put the strap around, or if it's floated, then you can just use your phone like this. And you can either do a selfie like here, or you can do a picture forward. But putting both oars under the oar board, I would assume that the oars would be off the water then. And if your oars are off the water, it's not going to be quite as stable if your oars are on the water. So I'd put your oars flat on the water, hold the handles, and that's going to give you probably 12 feet of stability instead of the width of the oar board, which is probably about 2.5 feet. It'll make a difference, especially if you're out, like you said, taking photos of the ships and shipping channel, and there could be some wake that goes by. So that would be my suggestion for that scenario. Hold both hands and then use your iPhone in one hand. And that's going to be more comfortable to do that, especially if you had a lanyard on your iPhone, or if you knew you dropped it by mistake, it would still float. So now we can talk a little bit about what kind of photos do you want to take, and how there can, slight adjustments can make your photos better. So we'll just share again, Adam. We'll go to the beginning. This is all the waterproof stuff, so we've talked about that already. And okay, so here's a little photo. And if you've, I'll just go a little bit closer here, get the idea. Okay, does that look pretty good, Adam?
Very good.
Okay, so the rules that I like to follow when I'm taking photos, the first one is the content. So that just means, what are you taking photos of? So in this case, it would be the oar board, where are you in the environment, and yourself, and how those three elements mix together. And once you figure out how you want to mix them together, how do they represent themselves the best in a picture? So some of the things that make a difference, and here's an example of a surfer and this is called the rule of thirds. So you want to place the subject, and this is just a guide, but if you place the subject and the horizon either on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, and the horizon either on the top third or bottom third of the photo, it's going to be a little more pleasing to the eye. Not always the case, but majority of the time. Here's another example of somebody looking out at the water. So what you'll notice here is the horizon is straight. So where the water meets the land or the water meets the sky, that is straight across. To me, that's a pretty important element of a picture that's pleasing to the eye, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. And you can see that the woman there, or man, can't really tell, is on the on the right-hand side of the picture, rather than right in the middle. So once we're getting into composition now. So again, the three things that I like to think about when I'm taking a photo or making a photo is content, the composition, and the creativity. And the content comes first, so what you're taking a photo of, and then composition, how you arrange those elements together, kind of like a puzzle, and the creativity comes third. Maybe there's a little neat element, but the content and the composition should come first. We'll show you a few pictures here, a few examples. So we'll just zoom out here a little bit. These pictures are different size. So here's an example of a picture that has, to me, great content. It's got and this is a Whitehall boat, which is, let's say, a cousin of the Oar Board. There's some Oar Board pictures coming up, but I chose from both. So it's got a subject, which is the Whitehall boat, a dog, which is kind of cool, and in the background, it's got a ship. So what I think you could do first is correct the line of the horizon. And you can see when you do that, it's just a little more pleasing to the eye. And the second thing is you can move the person in the boat, the subject, either to the bottom third or the top third. We'll go to the bottom third this time of the photo. So again, that's a little more pleasing to the eye. We'll show another example. So here's an example of an oar board at a sunset. So it's a beautiful picture. What I like about it is the people on the oar board are right in the reflection of where the sun is, looks like would be setting. Well, let's just say setting. That's a nice element to highlight the silhouette. But there's a lot of empty space on the bottom. So what we want to consider is when they're posting photos to the Oar Board or Whitehall website, they do like to put the logo in there. So you want to leave room for the logo, but not this much room. And you can see the horizon's pretty straight, but not perfect. So if we crop it, you can see that that's a little more pleasing to the eye. Again, we'll show another one. Here's some people, and you can see the Oar Board logo in the bottom there. I like it again, it's at sunset, but the horizon's just slightly off, and there's just a little bit too much busyness going on. So if you just crop it in a little bit, to me, there's just a little bit more focus on the people on the Oar Board. You might not see them right there, and here they're a little more to the right. The last example we'll show, again, is a square picture, which is a beautiful picture, nice clouds. You can see a little bit under the water. But again, you can see if we crop the horizon straight, again, it's just a little more pleasing. So going back to the iPhone, and I'll unshare the photos here. So when you're out on the water, it could be bumpy. You could not quite hold it straight. So you want to try and get as close as you want to straight, but you don't want to miss a moment. It's like trying to get your camera straight. So what you can do, here's a picture that I took of some rowing shells with a drone last weekend. So, and we'll talk about drones a little bit later, but what you can do, this horizon is straight. But what you can do, if you take a picture on your phone, you can click it, and then you can click edit. Then you have the option, there's a little, you can see here, there's a little square with some arrows. So if you click that, square with the arrows, you can adjust, you can see it adjusting the horizon. So let's just say that this was way off. I can now adjust it and go, that's how I like it. Done. So my suggestion would be, when you're using your phone, try and get the horizon as close as you can, but don't worry about if it's not exactly perfect, because you might miss the moment. Then when you get back onto shore, you can adjust those photos and then upload them to Instagram or your website or whoever you like. Okay. Now we'll talk a little bit about the creativity part. So this kind of, and I'll share the screen again. Share screen. There's a picture here that I really liked that was on the Oar Board website. I'll just scroll through here to get it. Here it is. So this is a nice, oh, sorry, Whitehall website. This is a nice example of like layering photos. So it's adding something in the foreground that's interesting, kind of framing the photo, framing the boat, the main subject, but doesn't take away from the photo. What you'll also notice is that the subject, the boat, is right in the center, and it works. So the rule of thirds is a guide. It's not always the rule. So if it's pleasing to your eye and the boat's right in the center, well, that's fine. But you will notice it's in the top third of the picture. So that's how we do some creativity. But we have the content, which is the boat. Then we have the composition, which is the boat is in between these pink flowers. And then we have the creativity, which is I'm not really afraid to include something in the foreground. And it's a nice color as well. The other thing you can do with your phone, which is creative, you can try and put it low to the ground. If you're getting ready to go on your oar board, like there's a photo here that I wanted to include. So the photos don't always have to be when you're on the water. Some of the nicest photos I have of rowing are when the athletes are warming up in the boathouse or cooling down or chatting afterwards. So if you get some photos that tell the story of what you're doing, I'm here, this is how I transport it, we're going onto the water, those can really add to your overall picture. I think there's maybe too much focus sometimes on oar board on the water rowing, whereas that's not the whole story. It can be, this is where I store it in the garage, or this is where I store it in my house, or this is where this is how I fold it up, this is how I blow it up. So you want to take people on the journey, not necessarily when you're rowing. Right, now we'll get to I want to touch on, the drone. I'll just unshare this here. The question about who was talking about drones.
It was Marty who said he had
Marty.
a drone.
Right. So
I
this
forgot to mention
common.
I've got a drone too, so I'm really intrigued by this part, Kevin.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, here's my drone story, and your worry about losing it. I was worried about hurting someone, really having it drop out of the sky and hurting somebody. So I bought this drone, which is a Mavic 2 Pro, or Mavic 2 Mini, sorry, 249 grams. I think it's even written on there. You can see that. So the reason 249 is important is that you don't need any extra education to fly this drone. If it was over 250 grams, then you would. And that doesn't mean that these blades aren't still sharp, because I can assure you they are. But it means that you can just buy it, and then as long as you don't doing anything really silly, you can go and fly it. I bought it in October, and it took me until February to get up the courage to ask a friend to help me launch this. I was just afraid. So the first thing we did, we went to a park, and we didn't take any photos or video. We just practiced flying. So practice flying, landing, taking off, around some posts. And that gave me a lot more confidence than just going out on my own. Somebody showing me how to do it. Then took it out on my own, practiced on my own. There's a function on here that allows you just hit, takes a photo every 5 seconds. So I thought, okay, I'll take a photo every 5 seconds. Now I'll just fly it around and I'll keep flying it, but I don't have to worry about I'm flying and taking photos. That was a big step. The other thing I like to do with it is I'll just fly it up and I'll set it at a scene that I like. Let's say you're launching from a shore. You could fly it up. You don't have to go very high. Point this straight down, or this is the gimbal, which you can control all from your phone. You can just let it sit there and take a photo every 5 seconds and then launch, and either then go back to shore and then land it. Now, there's a few things I want to talk about that are important when you're taking off and landing that are going to save you from certain, let's say, possibilities of losing your drone. So when it says it has about 30 minutes of battery life, I would say it has about 22 to 25, depending on how windy it is and how much how much flying you're doing. But when it says beep, 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 land, it's probably time to land. Now, there are two ways that it will land. Either you fly it back to a spot and you land it straight on the ground manually, or when it takes off, it'll set a home point so that if you are going to fly it around and it says running out of batteries and you don't do anything, it's going to say, I'm going to land for you. Or you can just say, there's a home point, it says fly home. So then it will just fly home, which is a really nice security feature. The things you have to be aware of is that on this drone, it's about accurate to about, I think, about 5 feet. So for its home point. So if you take it off from the side of a hill, so let's say I did this once, I laid it flat and then it just about a foot and then it dropped down. And I was flying and my phone battery died. So I couldn't control anymore. And so when it realized that, it sensed, okay, I'm gonna fly home. But it was, instead of landing on the flat, it was just 2 feet this way and it was trying to land where it was on an angle and it couldn't land, up and down, couldn't land. Luckily, it was low enough that I could just grab it. And if you ever in that scenario, you can be very careful not to grab get hit by the propellers, but if you grab it and then quickly turn it on its back, it will shut off. So that's a good safety precaution. The other thing that has to happen when you take it off is yesterday I took it off, flew it up 10 feet, then there were some tree branches, then I flew it about 15 feet and then up. And when it was trying to land to its home point, the trees were below and it was just coming straight down. It was just hovering like this. So when you're taking it off, make sure that you have a flat zone about 6 feet around and there's absolutely nothing above, just in case something does happen, it still can land where you took it off from. I was scared to use the drone, but now it really adds to my photography kit, whether I'm just out on the water and doing some photos of myself, or if I'm hired by a client, and this has happened quite a few times, I can use my regular camera and then I can say, okay, well, I'm just gonna put this up for 5 minutes. And whether I was doing a photo of development, it just gives some really nice perspective, which it will do for your Oar board too. It'll give a nice perspective of where you are. So this is really interesting and not really as hard to fly as I thought. There's 2 stick controls, one that goes up, one that goes down, and your right hand sideways. So it takes a little bit of practice, but I've been really, really happy with adding the drone to my photography kit. Now I'm just going through the list of questions. Legs. I think I've answered most of them. Well, what we'll do is I'll just share my screen again, and I'll just share one more picture here. The the question of how to get the best pictures of you rowing, my suggestion would be a combination of this
While
shot.
Kevin's getting that set up, I'm just going to pop in and say if anyone does have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll ask them to Kevin as well.
We're right, because I've been doing a lot of talking. This will be my last one. But if you're out with a group, the best way to get a picture of you rowing is somebody else taking a picture of you rowing. So if you get really, my suggestion would be getting close and then starting a video and then rowing away, or putting the camera down low, level with the water, point it up a little bit. And then if you, I do this quite a bit, you can see, stop share. You can see where the lens on the camera on your phone is, and you can see that the volume buttons are just in a nice position. So if you put this level with the ground, you can use instead of a digital shutter, you can use this mechanical shutter. So you're actually pressing a button to turn the shutter on. And if you put this level with the water or the ground, it gives you a nice grip on the phone, but also this like lens sensor is really, really close to the ground. So it gives a really kind of a neat perspective, a creative perspective. So that would be my attempt to, in a nutshell, help you generally with your photos. But it's been a few, probably 20, 25 minutes since I've been talking like this. So I'm sure it may have spurred on some more questions. So if there are any, Adam, from you or from anybody else, I'll do my best to answer those.
Well, we got Ron Schmidt, who has shared a bit of his a drone mistake where it sounds like he like dunked one into the almost dunked one into the water, or did, and he bought a second one. But he's got a question here. When on board, you would want drone tracking so you aren't getting photos of you running the controls, question mark.
Drone tracking, that's a good question, because it would look funny if you were just stopped taking a picture of you. So what I would do in that case, there are drones that will follow so that you set a home point and then it follows you around. I'm not too familiar with that technology, but what you could do if you had a regular drone like this, you could fly it up in front of you, let's say 100 meters. So I'm like this, fly it in front of me, tilt the gimbal so it's down a little bit, and then hit record on your phone, and then put the controls down and then row towards it or row away from it. It won't track you, but it will stay hovering in the same spot. So what you can do is either have it so this gimbal is pointed straight down and you row underneath, or the gimbal, I would make sure that this is probably 15 feet so you don't row into the drone, 15 feet in the air or higher, and then row towards it. It's not going to track you, but I agree that it would look funny if you were on the oar board controlling the drone. It's not really part of the activity.
Well, and while we're on the drone conversation, what do you do to minimize the problem of viewing the drone cell phone app in bright sunlight? Because you know how sometimes—
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a problem that is a real interesting one, because you don't want to put your screen brightness all the way up, because then the battery goes all the way down, but you still want to see your screen. So there are some videographers that are out on the water, they create a shade, like a brim of a hat. They have that over their video camera. So I don't have one of those. There's probably some that make them that you could just attach. It's something that I'm going to have to research myself, because having been a drone user seriously only since January. Of course, now moving into the summer months, that's more of an issue because the sun's more overhead. And it is something that I think only a shade, a physical shade, can provide. And if you could use your phone at, whether or not you're using a drone or not, if you're using it for pictures, if it's at half or 3/4 the screen brightness, that's going to dramatically preserve the battery life. So, because you don't want your phone to run out of batteries when you're on the water for a safety reason, first of all, but for a second, you want to be able to take photos or run your drone longer. And if you're out on the water and your phone runs out of batteries, your drone is going to try and land where you took it off from.
Well, and
if you don't run out of batteries, you can manually land it back on your board if you're a kilometer down the river. So that's something else to think about.
Well, and I'll throw this up on the screen too, just so that we can see.
Yeah.
And there's, this is what Kevin was talking about, a little glare shield. And I just did a quick Google of it, but, and you can see they have drone, they have it for the drone as well. But I guess they're out there. So if you try them and you find that they work, you know, let the group know. That's definitely.
Yeah, that's something that I'm going to have to look into myself, because otherwise you're spinning around to try and use your body as a shadow and it can be a little bit, especially if you lose where your drone is. It can be a little bit scary when you think you're over there and you don't really know where it is. So that can be a little bit of a bad feeling in your stomach.
And then we're getting close to the end of time, so I want to make sure that we're respecting the time. But let's finish one last one from Steve Horswell, who says, is there a smartwatch with an app that controls an iPhone or an Android remotely to take photos?
Right. So I'll touch that on. From what I understand from the question is, he's going to position his phone on a mount somewhere on the end of the oar board and want to control the shutter of that phone by his watch. So you click the watch and then take a picture of yourself. That's kind of what I understand. I think that's what Steve's referring to. If that was the case, it'd be kind of the same photo of you controlling the drone as the drone's taking a picture of you. So, because you'd be touching your watch as it was taking a picture. I'm not sure if that's exactly what Steve is referring to, but what you can do then is set your phone to take a photo on like a timer. So you can set it, okay, take a photo in 20 seconds and then put it in its mount and then row, and then we'll take a photo of you. I think that's what he's referring to, but if it's not, Steve, then just send a note to Adam and then I'll respond to you via email with something that's a little more specific to your question if that doesn't answer it.
And yeah, Ed's saying that the Apple Watch can control the iPhone camera. And
right. So then you could set your phone out there and then have your iWatch on and then say, okay, phone, take a picture in 15 seconds and then click it on your watch and then start to row. So it's getting a picture of you in action.
Okay.
That would work. Are there any other questions or comments that hopefully I answered everyone's questions and gave some
good answers. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. There's a lot of good information in there to get our heads wrapped around how to take some better pictures. And I know I learned a few things. It's nice to have the refresher about rules of thirds and figuring out how to use different pieces of equipment to take some pictures and to think about the composition of what's going out there. So we'll wrap it up, and I've been seeing a lot of you on the Facebook community. Just another reminder that that's where we poke around and share a lot of what we're talking about, and it's good to keep the conversation going there, keep the relationships going. And so it would be great to see you out there. And again, we have free swag. I know, Ed, you sent me a note. Where's my swag? just getting organized, and I've got to put together some spreadsheets and send them off to some of the warehouse staff so that they can pack it up and send it out. So if you're waiting for some free stuff, definitely let me know. Send me a note, adam@oarboard.com. I'll send some stuff over to you. And you know, whether it's a t-shirt or some bands. I know we've got the business cards are now available too for people. Toques, yeah, I'm gonna send you a toque there, Michael. And the book, I know you had something you wanted to say about the book. Yay! It's good. I think it's whatever we want. And again, we've got the ambassador page where people can click and you can find other ambassadors if you're traveling to a different area. I know Marty said he's going to hook up with Deb later on in Reno when they're there. So again, stay connected, stay involved, and I'm always just an email away as well. So let us know if you have any issues or any questions, and we'll see you next time we have this little Zoom meeting.